School's out forever. School of Beards, Chapter 1.
Unforgivable.
Hello again, Emerald Aussie here with another beard tale. This one is way more lighthearted than Squirrel Beard was. Yeah, we had to put that one on hiatus for just a little bit. I keep getting dinged left and right, so just hang in. For those that read the first part of the Raised by a Nice Guy, well, that's still in the works, but it's a bit hard to write, so I'm taking my time with it. It's requiring therapy sessions to get through, and although I do want the story told, it will be a slower moving one. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. Should ReddX or Moonhorse see fit to read this tale, then hello again. Hi, user Emerald Aussie. Thank you to both for reading my stories in the past. I do love it so. You're both amazing narrators and bring something different to the table, which I love. It's also a reason that I'm not scared to cover things that have been covered already, because everybody's got a different perspective. First, let me preface this with the fact that schooling in America is very different than it is in Australia. For all the ways they're the same, they're also pretty different as well. Beetle says the same thing about Ireland and how different the education there is. For us both adjusting to teaching in America when we attended school elsewhere, it was a unique and humorous experience in itself, but that is not what this tale is about. This is about a department that we both worked in that was just full of beards. So many beards that I can't say that this saga is just about one. I also need to add that although I wrote this, Beetle proofed it and added some things that I might not have been around for or forgot, so it's a bit of a collaboration. With all that said, let's get into the cast list. We've got OP/Mandy. We're gonna call her OP. That's me. Those of you who have seen ReddX or Moonhorse's videos might know my name, but since Beetle named me Mandy in his own saga, I'm gonna go with that. In this particular year, I was the English/ESL teacher, EAL teacher for my Aussie peeps. So although I was part of the English department, I had a lot of additional duties as well that took me away from department happenings sometimes. Sounds pretty sweet. Sometimes we get a break, sometimes. Beetle is my husband and co-worker. He was teaching resource English as well as doing English inclusion. Those are special education programs for those who don't know. Much like me, he has a lot of additional duties for special education that take him away from the English department happenings at times. Wee One is my daughter with Beetle. She was in English Beard's class the year that these events took place. English Beard is the English 2 teacher. Initially, he seemed cool, but the more the year went on, the more his beardiness began to show. He was the prime target of all the LegBeards in the department. Beetle and I defended him at first, but it eventually got to where we couldn't. He also happened to be Wee One's teacher at the time. I wasn't sure what you meant by prime target, like they were romantically interested, but no, they're trying to bring him down. Beards don't like competition, you see. Pip Beard was the English 1 teacher. She used to teach English 4 and had a terrible chip on her shoulder because she was a young teacher and felt entitled to still be teaching English 4. She had bright, naturally red hair. How did I know it was natural? Well, because she never shaved her legs or her armpits and always wore sundresses. So everyone could see the red bush under her arms and on her legs. She had a shrill voice and thought that the entire world was out to get her. See, I wouldn't even really go in on the arms and legs, but the world is out to get me mindset, yeah, I can't abide by that. Avid Beard, AB, is an English 1/Avid teacher. You talk about like the non-linear editing program, Avid? I don't know of any other Avid, so if it means something else, I hope you'll tell me. She taught advanced English and was the head of the Avid program, so she thought she was above the rest of us. She also thought she was always right and was completely self-righteous. A lot of the students feared her because she often made threats and you were never really 100% sure if it was sarcastic or if she would just snap one day. What were the threats? Like, I'm gonna break both your arms? That's probably too hyperbolic, but you never know. Wee One was her student the year before the events of this story took place, and she has her own stories to tell. Callie was my ESL partner, English 2 teacher, and best work friend, aside from Beetle. I like how you specify it's a work friend too, because they are different. She did ESL inclusion with LegbearD. She was also my beacon of sanity during this crazy year. She is originally from California. Oh, what a terrible place. I'm glad you got out. There's a few other characters you'll meet in the story, but in the interest of not writing a mile-long list, I'll keep it to the main characters, so let's get into it. For starters, you need to know that summer vacation is a joke. Teachers do not really get summers off. We might get a little time off, but there's always some sort of training or planning or something that we have to do to prepare for the next school year. Yeah, but at least you get a little time off, you know? Here at ReddX Industries, no days off. You're working on Christmas.
That's not true. We're probably not working on Christmas. I'm just gonna schedule the upload.
Okay. So in this particular year, it was my first official year at this school. Let's call it Standard High School. Yes. Everyone at Standard High School knew me because I had been a substitute teacher there for a couple of years, and Beetle had been working there since his student teaching days, but it was my first year as an official full-time employee, and I was stoked. I'd been wanting to teach there, and I had applied for many jobs before they found the right fit for me. So when I found out I had to go to training a week earlier than Beetle for the new to campus stuff, I wasn't really that bothered at all. It was at the training that I met LegbearD and MediaBeard. LegbearD told me that he was one of the few English teachers, and MediaBeard was the new broadcast AV teacher, a job that I had applied for myself. MediaBeard was the one that I ended up sitting with for the first few days. We became friends, or friendly co-workers anyways. You specified it again and I still love it. And that was nice. I had someone to talk to at training and to eat lunch with. He seemed like a nice enough guy, except for his consistent bragging about having worked in the industry. And although he claimed to have done work in Hollywood, he was never specific about which projects he worked on, which was both annoying and odd. Bro, he lying through his teeth. He did some student films. That's basically where everybody starts out with Avid, right? So finally my training ended and the school year started in earnest. I was so excited to have a class of my own and be at a school that I had been dying to work at. It was also great because Beetle's classroom was directly across the hall from mine, so we could easily give each other bathroom breaks and have lunch together. The only downside to all this is that my next door neighbor was Pitbeard, whom I'd had a few run-ins with when I was a sub, but I'm not gonna dwell on that. It didn't take me long to get into the swing of things. I loved my students, I loved teaching English, and I even loved helping the students learn to speak English. I also loved Callie. All in all, my year was off to a good start. And that lasted for about a month. One day I was doing inclusion support in an English 1 classroom, and I saw the principal and several assistant principals swarming Legbeard's room. I was curious as to why, because 1, although it wasn't Wee One's class period, he was her teacher, and 2, I'm human, and this was bizarre. Bizarre because they're swarming, or bizarre because there's multiple assistant principals? I couldn't figure it out, and I didn't really have time to dwell on that because I had my own job to do. After school, I grabbed Beetle and we went to the ESL room where Callie was. I closed the door so it was just the 3 of us. "What's going on?" I asked, knowing that Callie was in Legbeard's room that period for inclusion. "Honestly, I have no idea. I stepped out to pull a kid from another class, and when I got back, Mr. Principal was there and asking me to cover the rest of the class period. And I think LegbeardStories said something to a student or whatever. I saw some students going to the restroom and they were totally crying," Callie said. "I have no idea. I was just in my own classroom and I saw all the admins come up here," Beetle said. By the end of the day, both students and teachers alike were gossiping about what was happening. What pissed me off the most about this was that some of the teachers were gossiping to the students. It's one thing to talk to other teachers when no students are around, but quite another to discuss these things with students. Completely unprofessional, in my opinion. Show you right, OP. Those teachers trying to get it in with the kids. That's weird as hell to me. Hello, fellow kids. I heard every type of rumor, from EnglishBeard went on a racist tirade to EnglishBeard struck a student with a stick. I went to pull wee one from the class before his class that day because there was gonna be a substitute anyway, and I didn't want her around all that gossip. I explained to her that there were some rumors about EnglishBeard and that they were likely untrue, but we didn't need to spread any falsehoods, so it was best to just not be around it. She agreed, because she hates drama and was glad to not have to be a part of that. I also did my best to avoid the other English teachers. I was very curious as to what was happening, but at the same time, I hate rumors. It is hard to fight your human nature, you know? People always trying to solve mysteries. Just let it be. It's fine. I deal in facts, and to me, all of the various rumors were childish and potentially damaging. I still liked EnglishBeard at this time. Oh, maybe those rumors do hold some water then, huh? Evidently, the depth of the rumors made it to admin because that night, Beetle and I got a text about an emergency department meeting the next morning. Bloody hell. Shite's about to hit the fan, I said. Beetle nodded. It was bound to happen eventually. This'll be fun, I sighed. Beetle and I arrived at work early the next morning so we could get ready for first period and make it to the meeting on time. We walked into the classroom and found a seat. You could cut the tension in this room with a knife. I was all too happy when Daria, our department head, started the meeting. She had Mr. Principal and Mrs. Dean, the admin over English, with her. All right, let's get started. First of all, thanks for being here early. I know this meeting was very short notice, but there have been a lot of things being said, and admin would like to address it, Daria said, turning the floor over to Mr. Principal.
Good morning! I do appreciate everyone being here early as well. We need to address some rumors being spread. For those that don't know, there was an incident in EnglishBeard's class that we had to deal with, and it had several of you, as well as the students, very upset. I know a lot of things have been said about him being racist and any number of things. This is not what happened. What happened is that there were some black students using the N-word in class. EnglishBeard attempted to redirect them several times.
Mr. Principal started. Kind of reminds me of that clip from the Boondocks where the teacher's like, how you gonna borrow a French fry? You know what I'm talking about?
Can a borrow a French fry? And my first thought wasn't, oh my God, he said the word, the N-word.
All of this was really no shock. Hate speech had been an issue from the first day of school. I had heard so many kids using everything from racist slurs against any group you can name to homophobia and transphobia. And even in my class, I called out several students for using hate speech in their native language. Hate speech is hate speech in any language had become a daily phrase for me. It was frustrating as hell, and I was sick of it too. I mean, this is kind of what happens with fledglords, you know? I expect things like this at high school. Anyway, Mr. Principal continues.
After redirecting the students several times, EnglishBeard said, "You will not say the N-word in my class," except he actually used the word.
It is like the Boondocks clip.
He did not say it with racist intent, and it was said in the heat of the moment. That doesn't make it right, but it was not directed at any individual student. We have addressed the situation with HR, and EnglishBeard will be keeping his job.
How? Avidbeard cried.
HR determined there was no cause for termination,
Mr. Principal said. How can... You know what? I don't feel comfortable talking with him in here, Avidbeard said. EnglishBeard stood up and left the room. The dismissal of EnglishBeard upset Callie because she didn't like that they weren't even willing to hear EnglishBeard out. She was on the verge of tears at the immediate attack and left the room before anyone could see her cry. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Never let them see you sweat. Stuff it way down in there. Probably don't actually do that, but I understand if you're not ready to make your point about it quite yet. Quick aside, it shouldn't matter, but it kinda does. Mr. Principal and Miss Dean are black, and all of our legbeards are white. I don't feel comfortable with someone that would say that word, Avidbeard said. Pitbeard nodded.
Neither do I. Why he said it doesn't matter. He said it. He shouldn't be with the students.
The fact he even felt comfortable enough to say it tells me all I need to know about him. Oh, look at him. Couple legbeards just stirring each other up. I had just about enough here. I looked at Beetle, and he knew what I was about to do, but he also knew better than to try and stop me. So, you've never said anything in the heat of anger that you might regret down the road? I asked. I have never said that word, Avidbeard countered. Neither have I, but I've said things that I regret saying because I was angry, and I can understand his frustration. Hate speech is out of control this year, and it's frustrating. I'm not saying what he did was right, but I think we can all agree that it was not okay at all. But what I'm saying here is that intent matters, and it's not like he called a student that word. If he did, this would be a different conversation, but I don't think we should be attacking him. None of us are perfect, and we've all said things that we shouldn't, I said. I mean, that's real talk, that's a nice sentiment, but I know Avidbeard and Pitbeard are gonna keep up on their high horse. There's no way they'll ever admit to saying something they shouldn't have said. I could tell by the look in Beetle's eyes that he agreed with me, but he also feared the backlash that I was about to be on the receiving end of. That word should never be said, period, Avidbeard cried.
I tried to comfort the students that were having anxiety attacks over a teacher saying that word,
Rainbowbeard said, who is another Legbeard, English 3 teacher. Yeah, and you lot were gossiping about it to students, which we should never do. It's our job to de-escalate these situations, I said.
We have to be there for our students,
Rainbowbeard said. Of course we do. In a professional way.
We should not be discussing this matter with students at all. If they need support, you can send them to the counselor's office, Mr. Principal chimed in.
Oh, he laying the law down.
That is not the relationship I have with my students,
Rainbowbeard said. Well, then you need to find another job. No, Principal didn't say that. Instead, Pitbeard chimes in.
Same here! I want my students to know that they can come to me with anything!
I have a unique perspective on this situation. My daughter's actually in EnglishBeard's class, so I see this as both a parent and a teacher. Honestly, I see this as a teachable moment for Wee One to show her that we have to be mindful of what we say, but that intent matters, and we can forgive mistakes because no one is perfect. I'm fine that he is still her teacher, I said. Bro, you really leading the charge on this one, huh? I mean, I guess otherwise it might spin out of control or Mr. Principal will take his decision back or something. It could devolve very quickly, so good on you for being the voice of reason. Is he at least gonna be taken out of his leadership roles? Avidbeard asked. She and EnglishBeard both taught advanced students in their respective grade levels, and were on some sort of committee for advanced teachers, and were supposed to work together planning their classes.
No, his duties will not be changing,
Mr. Principal confirmed. I don't think I can work with him anymore, Avidbeard said. I sighed. This was ridiculous. I looked at Beetle to pipe up and support me. He did not.
I understand if this offense is egregious enough that you don't feel comfortable. If that is the case, I will accept your resignation, Mr. Principal said.
Oh, that's so juicy. There you go, calling her bluff. I absolutely love that, dude. I will admit, I smiled smugly at that. I also hoped that some of these beards would take him up on his offer.
What are we supposed to tell the children?
Pitbeard asked.
Again, you can send them to the counselors if they need to talk. None of this should distract from your lessons,
Mr. Principal said.
We can't teach students that are having a mental health crisis because of a racist teacher,
Rainbow Beard said. We can be understanding of their emotions while staying focused on the curriculum, Daria chimed in. Are there any other concerns? Miss Dean asked.
None that you care about,
Avid Beard said.
If anyone wants to talk privately, we are both available to meet about any additional concerns you may have,
Mr. Principal said. With that, the meeting was dismissed and we went to start our days. On my way to class, I found Callie and checked on her. Are you okay? I asked. Like, the energy in there was so hateful. I'm sorry, it's supposed to be a serious situation. The voice I chose, I can't. They wouldn't even, like, listen to his side of things, Callie said, wiping her eyes. I feel, like, totally stupid. For crying? No, this is an intense situation and emotions are running hot. You don't have a first period, so take a breather, and if you need me, I'll be in class, I said. She nodded, and I headed off to start class. Later that day, when I was in inclusion, Mr. Principal came in and asked to speak with me outside. Bloody hell, my big mouth has gotten me into trouble again, I thought to myself. Yes, sir, I said when I got into the hallway.
I just wanted to thank you for speaking up in the meeting today. I appreciate you being willing to give your coworker grace and understand the intent of the situation,
Mr. Principal said. I nodded. You're welcome. It was just really frustrating that they were not looking at the intent of the words. I really am frustrated by the hate speech, and I can understand how he snapped. Like I said before, that doesn't make it okay, but it also doesn't make him a racist. See, this is the principal's like nod to you for backing him up because he saw the situation could spin out of control. Or he just fires everybody, but then you got a whole new set of problems. Anyway.
Exactly! I'm glad you could see the nuance of this situation,
he said. I just wish everyone could, I said.
I'll be talking to them individually,
Principal said.
It couldn't have been easy to be the lone voice of reason, and I just wanted you to know. I appreciate it.
I nodded. You know me. I say what's on my mind. He laughed.
Yes, I do know that.
I went back into class, super relieved that Mr. Principal was on my side. I wish he would have said so in the meeting, but I also get that he has to have some semblance of neutrality, as much as possible anyway. God, politics is just everywhere you go, isn't it? And that's how I became a pariah in the English department. And so did Callie and Beetle by association. Where the Legbeards used to talk to Beetle and invite him to happy hour, they no longer did because that meant inviting me. Beetle hadn't even spoken up, but just because he was married to me, he was being treated like trash. It was completely petty crap, too. I would come in and wish everyone I saw a perky good morning. Most people at least mumbled a good morning back, but the Legbeards would not respond at all. They would ignore me as if I hadn't said anything. Beetle didn't think it was actually to that level, and I thought maybe he was misreading things until he happened to be with me one day in the hall when I saw Pitbeard. Good morning, I chimed. She walked past without even looking at me. Wow, Beetle said when she was gone. I told you, I cried. I am persona non grata around here. That's dumb, Beetle said. Yeah, no kidding, I agreed. On top of that, I knew when I walked into an English 1 meeting and Avidbeard and Pitbeard would suddenly stop talking that they had either been talking about English Beard or myself. It was irritating, but I tried my best to just ignore it and be the adult in the situation. Honestly, most of the English 1 meeting was a gossip session anyway, so Beetle and I would often use that time to work on SPED and ESL work. The idea that our colleagues were acting like the students was frustrating to no end. I told you, bro, it's that fellow kid's mindset. I'm gonna be the cool teacher. It's not my job to fit in with you, I'm your teacher. It's not my job to make you happy, I'm your parent. Anyway, this is pretty much how the next couple of months went. You could cut the tension in the English wing of the school with a knife. Oh, the tension's leaking out. If I felt it, I am certain that the students could feel it. I just tried my best to act like nothing was wrong and to do my job the best I could. This seems like a good place to stop on part 1. Next time I'll share about the time that AvidBeard got offended on my behalf, because that's always fun. Hope you enjoyed this story. Until next time. God, AvidBeard just seems so quick to throw herself into the middle of situations that don't involve her at all. She wants so desperately to have a problem.
I don't want peace. I want problems, always.
And I think that's her main problem. If she could learn to let some things go, she could be a much happier person. But that doesn't seem like how it's gonna be. We should be about halfway through the video right now, and if you're still here, you must be liking the content. So please hit the subscribe button if you haven't quite yet. And we're moving on. School of Beards, Chapter 2. Good day, mates. I've had some downtime with it being the last week of school before winter break, so I decided to write the next part of my tale. I hope you're enjoying it. It's been cathartic for Beetle and me to relive and discuss now that we're past it, although this year has had its own share of tales. Anyway, without further ado, cast list, very abbreviated this time. OP, Beetle, Pitbeard, AvidBeard, Daria, Miss Dean, you remember them. Sonia, however, is the English 1 teacher, Gabby is the English 1 lead teacher, and Winnie is the English 4 teacher. Keeping it simple this time for a more detailed cast list, yeah, that's back in part 1. Nice, succinct, I'm into it. Every other day, during 4th period, the English 1 team was supposed to meet to discuss the current unit, plan lessons, calibrate grading, just a time to get teacher things done. English 1 consisted of Gabby, Sonia, Pitbeard, AvidBeard, Beetle, and myself. What a motley crew. On this particular day, Pitbeard came in very upset. She put her stuff down, but shortly after, left the room. Gabby followed to check on her. Beetle was off doing more sped things, and that left Sonia, AvidBeard, and myself alone in the room. In trying to make small talk, I started telling them about the anniversary trip that Beetle had surprised me with the weekend before, and I was just starting my story when Mrs. Dean came in. She joined our team meeting sometimes just to see where we were. "Where is everyone?" she asked as she sat down. Pitbeard's upset, and Gabby's talking to her, and Beetle's doing work for Sped, and I was just telling everyone about the trip that Beetle surprised me with, I said. "Oh yeah? He told me about that. Where did he end up taking you?" she asked. I won't go in the whole story. ReddX tends to go off on OPs that talk about themselves too much, so we'll keep it basic. Love you, Red. Love you too. I appreciate you keeping me in mind, honestly. It does frustrate me. I'm like, bring me the beards. It's my lifeblood. Basically, Beetle took me to a city about 3 hours north of the suburban town that we live in. For the most part, it was ridiculously romantic, but while we were there, we did accidentally stumble onto a Black Panther rally when we were walking downtown. Oh, God. We very quickly headed back to the hotel. There was another incident where this homeless woman was being harassed by a homeless dude. I turned to step in and Beetle pulled me back. "Do you want to get shot?" he asked as he pulled me along. "Yep, downtown." You could always go
downtown, just listen to the music of the traffic in the city.
I'm gonna be real with you for a minute. That doesn't sound like a very romantic place. Black Panthers and homeless people harassing everybody. But if you enjoyed it, I guess that's all that matters. Wow. Well, I'm glad you did have a good time overall, Miss Dean said. I did. Beetle was so sweet, I said as Gabby came back in. "Is Pitbeard okay?" AvidBeard asked. Gabby nodded. She just needs a minute. "Oh, hello, Mrs. Dean. Okay, let's just get started." And I figured that was it. Well, a couple of days later, I was in the middle of teaching my class when Mrs. Dean knocked on the door and I opened it. "Can I have a minute, Mandy?" she asked. "Sure. My class is reading right now," and I stepped out into the hall. "I just wanted to apologize if you were offended by my reaction to your story the other day," she said. I looked at her very confused. Okay. "When you were talking about the Black Panthers, it was brought to my attention that I didn't react properly." React properly? That's not what a reaction is. I guess I never react properly to anything in any story ever. OP says, "By who? What? No, I was just telling a story about my weekend. How the hell were you supposed to react?" "I was told that my reaction was not strong enough. For the record, I do condemn violent behavior," she said. Wait, what? Were you supposed to apologize for that group of people because you're black? I asked, and she shrugged. Maybe. No! What? No! And OP says the same. Ugh! No! If someone was offended on my behalf, they certainly don't speak for me, I said. "Bunch of busybodies in this school, I tell you what." "Okay, good. See, I thought you were just sharing your weekend," Miss Dean said. I nodded. "Indeed, I was. I'm so sorry that someone went to you about something like that." "It's fine, I just wanted to make sure that you didn't feel the same way," she said. "Rest assured that I do not," I confirmed. "Okay, have a great day, Mandy," Miss Dean said as she walked away. I went back to teaching my class. At lunch, I filled Beetle in on what had been said. It's gotta be LegbearD, right? She seems to have her fingers in all the pies. And I'm not just saying that because she's fat. Actually, I am, whatever. "What? Are you kidding me? Who would say something like that?" Beetle asked. "Well, I was thinking the very same thing. You weren't at that meeting, and Gabby had stepped out to check on Pitbeard. The only people in that room, aside from Mrs. Dean and myself, were Sonia and LegbearD. Sonia doesn't ever really stir anything up, so it had to be LegbearD, I deduced. "That checks out," Beetle agreed. "That really pisses me off. How the hell can you be offended on someone's behalf when they themselves aren't offended?" I asked. Beetle laughed. "Oh, Oppression Olympics." It's not just a meme anymore. The meme has become reality. Ugh! I cried, and I echo that sentiment. Later that day, I was pondering if I should just go confront LegbearD. It was my conference period, so this would be the time if I was going to do it, or I could just let it go. As I pondered, there was a knock on my door. I looked up from my computer, and there stood LegbearD. It's a sign. "Do it now!" Great, I mumbled to myself as I went over to go open the door. "I need to talk to you about a student," LegbearD said as she pushed past me into my room. Ugh. I nodded. "Okay, sure, come in. What can I help you with, mate?" I closed the door and sat back down at my desk. "I have a student that's an ESL, and he's having a hard time," LegbearD started. "Okay, I'm happy to help. Which student is it?" I asked. "Freddie Castillo," she said. Huh. That name rings a bell, but he isn't one that I usually work with, I said as I pulled up his schedule. I looked at it and sighed. LegbearD, Freddie's in AP English 4. He doesn't need linguistic support. "Can't he get, like, accommodations or something?" "Yeah, if he needed them. All ESL can do is linguistics based, and if he's in AP English 4, he doesn't need linguistic support," I said. "He's one of my avid students, and I was helping him with his English work, and I even helped him annotate, and Winnie gave him a 70. I know that's not a 70. I am great at annotating, and Freddie was in my room having a meltdown because she won't tell him what needs to be corrected." LegbearD fumed. "Bro, now you fighting battles on Freddie Castillo's behalf? Give it a rest. I called her a busybody earlier, but it's more than that. I'm surprised she's not, like, vibrating so hard that all her molecules fly apart. That would be an easy solution, wouldn't it? Okay. I'm sorry, but I don't see how ESL can support in any way here, I said. He is an ESL, she said. Yeah, but I can't do anything that's not tied directly to linguistics, I said. And who does Winnie think she is? You know she has a good trouble tattoo. She doesn't know what that even is. A tattoo doesn't make you an activist, she spewed. Oh, God. Imagine aspiring to be an activist. Forget about it. I don't even know what type of activist she is. Doesn't really matter. I'm a sedentaryist. And it's about here that our OP sighs. It was becoming more and more clear to me that this wasn't about a student, and that there was nothing truly ESL related here. If you want me to check in on Freddie or chat with Winnie, then I will, I said. I was just desperate to get her out of my room. It's just not fair the way she's treating Freddie, and he should know how to fix his assignment. She needs to communicate with him, she seethed. You got like a vested interest in this paper because it's the one that you help. This is all like surrounding your own ego. Going to battle for these other people doesn't make you a good person. It just helps you to feel like the good person that you know that you aren't. Anyways, OP nods. I'll do what I can. Good, non-committal. You know, she turns a blind eye to injustice when it's on her doorstep. Last year there was a racist teacher and she did nothing. She was still friends with her. Avid Beard then proceeds to go on a long rant about this teacher from last year that said something racist and wasn't fired, but she was gone this year and Winnie didn't do anything and blah, blah, blah. Oh my God. Did anyone else forget about the whole being offended on my behalf thing? Yeah, because I had by this point. I just wanted her out of my classroom. Can't blame you for that at all. And yes, I did forget throughout that rant. Finally, I stood up and started walking towards my door. I'll certainly see how I can help Freddie, and if there's anything I can do to assist, rest assured that I will. I'm here for all my ESL babies. Avid Beard headed for the door. Thank you. I knew I could count on you. Please don't. And then you slam the door on it. I sighed. This was not okay. I was absolutely being dragged into something that was none of my business. Yes, the student in question was technically ESL, however, I don't necessarily help all ESL students equally. A student that's just moved here from Mexico or South America and speaks no English at all is a student that I work with daily. A student in AP classes that speaks English and just hadn't tested out of ESL yet? Yeah, not really a student that I can do all that much for. I decided that this was something that Daria needed to be aware of, so I went to find her and she happened to be in Winnie's room. Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need to talk to you, I said. Is this about Avid Beard? Daria asked. I blinked. Yeah, actually. How did you know? She's actually the current topic of discussion. Come on in, Daria said. I went into Winnie's room and closed the door behind me. What happened? Daria asked. Avid Beard came into my room and then I explained the entire situation. Winnie scoffed. That is not remotely what happened. Freddie did correct his work. The problem was instead of coming in for tutorials so I could help him, he went to her and she showed him how it would be done in her class. I was looking for a different format. This is English 4 and AP at that. It's for college credit. There are differences between what's expected in here compared to other high school English classes. I nodded. I understand that, so there's truly no linguistic issue here. None. His English is perfectly fine, Winnie confirmed. I suspected as much. I figured there was more to it with the rest of the rant that she went off on, I said. Daria nodded. There is. It's an ongoing issue and has nothing to do with you. I'm sorry you were dragged into it. I held my hands up. Okay. Just ensuring that there's no ESL issue here. Daria shook her head. No ESL issue at all here. Then I'll be on my way. If this doesn't affect me, then I have no need to be a part of this. I'm gonna go back into my ESL hole, I said as I backed out of the room. Daria nodded. Thank you for bringing this to me. I'll handle it. I'm not sure exactly what Daria did about that particular situation, but I do know that AvidBeard didn't come to me with any more student issues. And once the dust settled, I decided to let the whole being offended on my behalf thing go. It annoyed me that she tried to use me to stir things up, but at the end of the day, it wasn't worth starting something else with her just to tell her off about it, so I figured this was one of those situations just best left alone. Yeah, taking the high road. We'll see how that works out. I did end up secretly keeping a closer eye on Freddy after that, just because he was on my radar now. He never did need my help. He had a great year. He was even crowned Homecoming King, and went on to pass AP English 4, get his college credit, and graduate without any issues. And that concludes this part of the School of Beards saga. Stay tuned for our next tale, in which I am forced to team up with Pitbeard. Thanks for reading. Well, this is definitely a lot less serious than some other stuff that we've done on the channel, but I'll be real, I am super grateful for that. I always find it interesting when people talk about their jobs. It seems like OP is really proficient at her job. She's there to do her business and she don't take no guff. And I like the cut of your jib. That's what I'm trying to say. AvidBeard, however, oh my god, sticking her nose into everything, sticking her fingers into every pie she could find. I hate it. But we'll have to see how it devolves further in part number 3 when OP teams up with Pitbeard. That can't be good. But desperate times call for desperate measures. I'll see you then, friends. Thank you as always for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you haven't. Check out all the links in the description. Follow me on the social medias, you know. Thank you to my Patreon patrons and YouTube channel supporters. You guys doing the most out here. Always remember, friends, that you are loved, you are worthy, you definitely deserve it, and I shall see you in the next one. So until then, friends, bye-bye.